Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next session, Finding a Job Through the Insanity of COVID-19 Lockdown. Welcome, and we're very excited to be joined by three panelists who are all HR and or recruiting managers at different local tech companies in town that are all still hiring to share their best insights. I introduced myself a little earlier, but again, my name is Navjot. I do recruiting, supporting many of the local tech startups in town through Rincon recruiting, but I also want to open this up. So if each of you could, I guess we could start with Bethany, just introducing yourself and kind of a little bit about yourself and then your company.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Bethany. I'm the HR manager at HG Insights. We curate and sell unique high-volume information about businesses' technology landscape used by sales, marketing, and product and corporate analysis for strategy and execution. We have about 100 employees, 2 offices with about 80 of those employees in our Santa Barbara. And then we also have an office in London with about 15 and then some remote employees sporadically through there. I am a mom of 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. So all you parents that are working and homeschooling, I feel you, I understand you. And yeah, just navigating this new normal that we've been going through for the last 2 months. I'm really looking forward to chatting with everyone and hearing your questions. So please feel free to ask any questions you have.
Nicole?
Hi, I hope everyone's having a great weekend. Navjot, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this today. I really appreciate it. My name is Nicole Halverson. I'm the HR manager at Carpe Data. We are an emerging growth insurtech company based here in downtown Santa Barbara, where we have about 70 employees here in Santa Barbara, and we also have an office in Lisbon, Portugal, where we're closing in on 30 in Portugal. So Carpe Data, we utilize emerging and alternative data specifically for insurance carriers. Our technology helps to enhance and automate aspects of the insurance lifecycle for both personal and commercial lines of insurance. As the HR manager, I do really aggressively recruiting right now, even during this time. But I also do a lot of projects for people operations and just help supporting the learning and development of our company as well. Again, really excited to be here and looking forward to digging in more.
And Caitlin?
Yes, hi everybody. So good to be here with everyone and just be together with Santa Barbara and everybody else out there. I'm Caitlin Perez. I'm the recruiting operations manager at Evidation Health. I've been with the company for 3 years now, and we are in the health tech space. So we're building technology to leverage everyday behavior data. So things like data from Fitbits, Apple Watches, your phone, to enable and empower everyone to participate in better health outcomes. So we get to work with partners and clients to be able to ask and explore questions like, can you use a phone or a tablet to detect cognitive decline? Can you use an Apple Watch to detect AFib and help prevent stroke? So really cool things that we're doing. We have 3 offices. Our headquarters is up in the Bay Area in San Mateo. We also have an office in San Francisco and then an office down here in Santa Barbara. And we were actually founded down here in Santa Barbara, which is pretty cool. We're approaching 200. We're pretty close and have seen a lot of growth in the last few years. And we have an office here downtown. I get to walk to work, which I love, when we're in the office, that is, and have a number of local alum from UCSB and other schools. And we're a mix of folks from the healthcare space to folks from business development and also software engineering, data science, product managers. So we have a pretty diverse team. So yeah, thanks so much.
All right, thank you all for the introductions and for joining us today. We really appreciate you donating your time to support the community with your insights. So for this session, this is actually my first time doing a virtual session, so bear with me. That being said, my goal is with this session is to support all of the job seekers or anyone impacted by COVID-19, whether it's layoffs or furloughs, and kind of navigating that recruiting process to help you find that job and getting back and going. So I really want to make this engaging. So if you have any questions, I believe you can either just ask a question in the comment, or there's a plus sign next to the comments where you can provide a question. So that'd be great if we can get a lot of community sponsored questions and just keep this very engaging. That being said, we're gonna get it started. So my first question, and anyone can start, and we can do this in any order, but could you describe just generally how COVID-19 has affected your hiring strategies, and if you still have current open roles that you are hiring for?
I guess I'll go since I'm unmuted at this point. Yeah, so we are still hiring. I think right now, particularly, we have zeroed in on our most critical roles that really we need for the business to move forward. So thankfully, we haven't really slowed down on those. If nothing else, it's kind of picked up, and that's our number one priority right now, is working on getting those positions filled. We continue to evaluate the business at every opportunity, because really it's a ever-changing situation. Every week is different, every month is different, depending on how the business is going. So while we can't really predict the future, and we just are really strategic about our hiring, we had a couple people leave before the pandemic, so we need to backfill those positions. Those are really important. Or we've had a couple people, we've had offers out during, like right before when everything was happening, and those people decided not to start just because it's uncertain what's going on, and they didn't want to relocate. So we've had to ramp up some of those hiring practices for those positions. But yeah, so it's ever changing, and we are still hiring. All of our open positions are on our website, and I just work with the hiring managers and our executive team on a regular basis.
Yeah, cool. I see Alex asked the question, what kind of roles? I think the easiest way would probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, looking at the websites and seeing what open roles are there, instead of listing them all here.
Yeah.
But whoever wants to go next.
I'll jump in. So Carpe Data is still hiring. We have a really aggressive kind of 2020 hiring goals that we're trying to achieve, and really to grow out different departments of our team. For us, we did close our B1 round of funding in March, which also just ended up being really timely, and has also given us just extra assurances that as we kind of guide through this uncertain time, and really some assurances, and continuing to hire. And we've onboarded 12 employees during this time, but definitely agree with Bethany. There have been some candidates who kind of right leading up to COVID were on the table, but now just kind of given this uncertain time, candidates who didn't feel like it was the right time to make a move to another company, who maybe had some current assurances at their current job. So, and I understand that uncertainty, and thinking about moving from one company to another during this time. Our roles are also listed on our website at carpe.io, but some of the teams that we are growing in, we're hiring on our finance team, on our data quality team, our QA engineering teams, our data science teams are growing, as well as our engineering teams. So also, many different departments across our company are at a point where it's really crucial for us to continue growing those teams right now, and to continue on our hiring path.
So for us, yeah, I would say, first I would just acknowledge that everything has been impacted. I think we're all seeing how it impacts in tons of different areas, but really want to highlight that, I think the goal is still the same, and that's that we want to hire great team members. So we're moving forward with that. I think probably the biggest thing that changed for us is the method of interviewing. And I think we'll probably talk about that later, but moving from, on-site interviews to virtual interviews. So the actual way that we're conducting the interviews has definitely changed. But our strategy actually has not been severely impacted. Kind of like Bethany said, I think that it's something that's constantly being evaluated by senior leadership. I don't think it's like a one and done kind of decision. Just as this continues to evolve, it continues to evolve internally for us. And there has been a tightening or pulling back maybe on a few specific roles that, based on the changes, are no longer top priorities, things like that. But otherwise, we're moving forward with pretty much our original hiring plan. One thing that has been impacted in our strategy, or is again, continuing to evolve, and it's interesting talking with hiring managers of, we've been pretty flexible with hiring across. We have these, 3 different offices. I forgot to mention earlier, we also already had about 30% remote. Our company was already about 30% remote. So we had been pretty flexible with hiring in different locations, hiring remote, but I'm seeing even more some roles where a hiring manager pre-COVID would have said, no, this is definitely a role I want in an office. They might be changing that idea now, knowing that we might be remote for a while longer. So that's definitely maybe one area that's impacted. But overall, continuing with our original kind of strategy and hiring plan. We have 15 plus roles open on our job board currently, and we're hiring primarily in engineering, data science, and for some product roles. So that's where the most of our roles are right now.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Looks like we're getting a good amount of questions, which is awesome. Thank you to the attendees for doing that. One question specifically has been getting upvoted, and that is for all the students out there that are graduating or just not graduating, do you have any current positions available for current students, or such as internships or entry-level roles?
I can start with that. I think that currently we did hire a few interns, so we brought on a few. I don't believe that we have any open exactly this moment, but I know that again with intern roles, those continue to open up and change. So I would definitely stay in touch. But I think right now we've filled our internship roles, but I know that we had some, and we have already brought on some interns. So.
Yeah, Carpe data in this, I would say for us, as far as, thinking of entry-level roles, currently on our website, we don't have any entry-level roles open, but I imagine, especially in kind of our data analysts and data quality teams, that will continue to evolve. It always seems to be kind of rolling for us, just kind of based on the current needs and as we look to the future. So there's nothing on our website right now, but as we continue to reevaluate our hiring plan, that's definitely, those data analysts, those data quality roles are definitely ones that we're constantly hiring and then not hiring and then hiring and then not hiring. So it's always kind of a delicate balance of kind of growing and developing that team.
Yeah, we're hiring interns still. I think we're evaluating as well. So we have a digital marketing intern position on our website. We probably will be opening up some data interns this summer as our, what's really great is we've hired most of our interns full time. So we just, as they graduate, these interns, we've offered them jobs, which is always an exciting thing to keep on our interns the more we can. I think the challenge for us in intern hiring, and a lot of companies are facing, is how do you onboard, somebody who may not have a ton of in-office or career experience, balancing, work and their life, and how to really set up systems for success. So it's something that we're talking about as far as, finding somebody that fits not only, the background, but how do you onboard somebody without being right next to them, being able to train and onboard these types of positions. However, with everyone doing school online, they've really had to understand how to do both, have their private life, but also sit down and focus and have school. So I think it's gonna be an easier transition for a lot of those people. But yeah, we are still hiring interns. The only one online is our marketing intern, but you can always reach out to me, and we can keep your resume on file. We'll probably look at those roles more in the coming weeks and what we need.
Great. Thank you all. So we got another question that is being upvoted, and that is sort of what tips do you have for people looking for a job right now? Also, given that there's not as many open roles and maybe there's higher competition for just the amount of people looking for jobs right now. Are there any tips that come to mind that you would recommend?
I can go first. I have two that come to mind. One is to lean on your network. We've hired a ton of great folks who were friends of friends or old coworkers, things like that. So I'd say one great way, a strategy to be thinking of as you're looking for roles is to lean on your network and talk with people, see which companies have openings. And I think that's always a helpful way to get a warm introduction to a company. And then secondly, I'd say, find what you're really interested in and something that you really want to get. I think that it really stands out to me when I'm talking to a candidate who's actually very interested in what we do, the role that we've posted, they understand what we do. So I think obviously you can, apply to lots of places, but definitely, do your research and know what the opportunity is. Because I think that to a recruiting team, to other interviewers, that really stands out when you can show and demonstrate that you're really interested in this position and the company, and not only just that it's a job, but it's something you're actually really interested in. So those are two top things that come to mind for me.
Yeah, something I kind of wanted to add to what you were saying, Caitlin, too. This idea of leaning on your network. Not just in the job search, but in thinking of what are ways that I can stand out as a candidate. And I wanted to share an experience of someone we recently brought onto the team, and her network was, second or third connections on LinkedIn to Carpe data. But she actually kind of, dug a little deeper, and after phone screening with me, had found someone on the team who, again, that second degree connection on LinkedIn. She just had an informal conversation with them and, asked them for the opportunity to learn more about Carpe data, learn more about the culture. And so when she did kind of get to that next round of interviews, she just had very clear, articulated questions, like very, very relevant to who Carpe data was. And, her really presenting herself well in that information session, also just gave her a little bit of an edge in, really making an impression on the team. And, it also gave her an opportunity. She was able to, kind of interview with someone who she normally wouldn't have really crossed paths with in the interviewing process. So, just using that network as a way to really stand out, did make a great impression on our team. And she's on the team now as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, I would say I agree with all those. In Santa Barbara, especially, your network is really important. So attending, virtual events or getting to know different people at different companies, you could have informal conversations. Right now, people don't have to leave. You can have Zoom, or video conversations. I would say use your LinkedIn. You want to tell your connections that you're looking for. You want to put a blurb out there. I've seen a lot of people been able to do that, just kind of put it out there that they're looking because they were recently laid off. I think everybody here probably wants to hire somebody and help somebody that was recently laid off. So just showing some vulnerability about where you are in your situation, really humanizes what's going on. Back in 2009, when I was hiring during the last recession, it was we received tons and tons of resumes for one job, and it was really difficult to sort through those resumes. So whatever you can do on your resume to show your personality or your uniqueness. A recent person would put different languages they spoke and then different like random facts about themselves that kind of just was really interesting, and you could talk about that in the interview process. I think being connected to a local recruiter such as Navjot and his team, or other ones depending on what field you're looking for, is going to be important, because what's going to happen, and I don't know, but through the last recession, we relied heavily on agencies so that we didn't have to source through hundreds of applications. And so the different method of hiring, it will change because there's going to be a lot more job seekers. So you're going to want to be connected to recruiter, because they're going to put your best position forward depending on if the company is using a recruiter or not. So, building out your network that way, I think, will be really important as well. And also don't forget to make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date and you have a picture, because that really like shows people that you know who you are. And I think that's a really important tip for anyone, all of us.
Yeah, oh, go for it.
Oh, sorry. And, Bethany kind of mentioned, just kind of, we're seeing a lot more resumes right now, and, really trying, there's a lot more for us as recruiters to really dig through. I really want to encourage people to have a unique resume and not just rely on a profile from a job board. I don't think that necessarily, really highlights your personality or, the other things that might help us make a connection for you as a job applicant. So if you are using job boards that maybe kind of just automatically put together a profile for you, like I really want to encourage you to actually put, your unique resume forward when you're applying for a job.
Yeah, I also wanted to just piggyback off of what Bethany said about the LinkedIns. I come across a lot of LinkedIns without even images, or just no summary, or just no description on anything they did at their last company. And I know that's a lot of the time is also on the resume, but having that, like putting that extra effort in to actually fill out your LinkedIn in terms of a summary and what you did at each company, and having that professional picture and everything all filled out, it's way better than not doing it. So it looks better. Cool. So we got one question about, so each of you have hired roles in the remote world versus in person. I guess piggybacking off of that question, is with everybody currently working remote, do you feel that, I know, Caitlin, you guys already have 30% remote, but do you feel that, like with Twitter announcing all of their employees are going to stay remote, or have the option to stay remote even after the lockdown, do you feel that this could be affecting how your companies view, like, making sure employees are on site versus remote, or just kind of moving forward in kind of the future of work?
I would, Carpe data. Do I think that, I don't know if that we're ready to go as drastic as Twitter, to be perfectly honest. I think it's definitely opened new ideas to our leadership team, which is always a good thing. And I think for us, it's, a little too soon to say how it will evolve. I'm curious myself, and, more than anything, I appreciate that our leaders, we are meeting regularly about this. And I don't know, I think it's a little uncertain for us exactly what that looks like.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you, Nicole. I think it's too early to really know like how productive everybody was during this time. We have been flexible. Like, we do have employees that work from home every once in a while, or every Friday, or to have heads down focus time, or if they go to their manager and they say, I really need some quiet and uninterrupted time. Managers are quite flexible in that sense. As a whole company, changing our work from home policy and all that, I don't know yet. I think we will have to just kind of continue to evaluate how that goes. I mean, we put out a survey last week about just working from home and what do you enjoy about it? What don't you enjoy? And it's all over the place. It kind of just depends on the role and the people, and if they have distractions at home, like 2-year-olds coming into your office during an interview, things like that. It's just kind of like how much I crave to just be in the office for a whole day, and then at other times I just want to be at home. So we will see. I think it's just ever changing. It's just changing. And so although more companies will be doing that, so I'm sure we're going to have to figure out some way as people are going to see that as part of your culture. What kind of culture do you have? Do you have that opportunity? We've had good situations, we have bad situations, but we do have full-time working remote people, and they do it really well. So it just kind of depends. We'll have to, look, see how things are going.
Yeah, so kind of similar on what these ladies have said, but we haven't gotten any official update. So I'd say take anything that I say with a little bit of a grain of salt. But for what I can say for now, first of all, yeah, we were already very flexible with work from home. So I think that put us in a good position. And a lot of people were already familiar with it, maybe not to the degree that we are now, but definitely we're familiar with it. But I think for at least in the near term, we're definitely going to be seeing a lot more flexibility. And I think kind of the way that we're talking about it is, it used to be flexible so when offices reopen or able to reopen, it used to be that we were flexible with work from home. Now, I think right now it's going to be, we're more flexible with work from office. The priority is the health and safety of our employees. And we've seen that we've been able to work this way and move forward. So as long as the safest place is the home, that's probably going to be the priority for a while. But the people who really need to be in an office and their just productivity has been affected quite a bit by this, say if they have a child or bad internet or whatever it may be, that they really would benefit from working in an office, they'll have priority to work in the office. So I think that's kind of how we're approaching it, at least in the near term, until things are more safe. So.
And I think it's so important to have, the employees be a part of that conversation. And, we've done similar surveys as well, because, the health, the safety, and the comfort of our employees, that really is our number one priority. And, there's so much information that everyone's getting from so many different places. But, we really are trying to, impress upon our employees, like, we want this to work for everyone. And, whatever the reason may be that, it's better for you to work in one place or the other, like we want to help you find where you feel safe and comfortable coming to work, and where you still have that productivity. And then it's always great that you're learning from the people who you're trying to help too. It kind of goes both ways, and sharing strategies, whether work from home strategies or remote work strategies, we can all learn something from each other during this time.
Awesome. Thank you. So we just got two questions that to me look they're different, but they're also kind of similar. One question is, given that you're saying that you're getting so many resumes, and how do you kind of filter? How do you go about filtering those, like versus, all right, you get 150 or 200. How do you get that down to, like, all right, we're gonna phone screen these 10 or maybe 5? And then the same with this other question. As all of you know, there's many college students entering the suboptimal job market. With all those hundreds of college students applying, what skills do you recommend that kind of stand out, that help you filter to maybe that 5 to 10 top candidates?
That one's always, why does that feel like a loaded question? I guess that's,
Yeah.
one of the big
I guess
challenges.
summarizing, like, how do you go about filtering when you get so many resumes, depending on whether they're a college student or not? Just there's so many applicants. Are there certain skills that they can really highlight, or maybe any specifics that you've seen on a resume where like, wow, that's awesome. I want to talk to this person.
Yeah, I think this can really, change based on if it's a very technical role, or maybe a role that's, requiring more soft skills, let's say. I guess some recent resumes that I've been impressed with, where everything, it's very clear, what technical skills they're trying to highlight, in their past positions, and to what degree. But also, for those, students who are graduating and just entering the marketplace, I want to see that you have, had an internship, or, had these extracurriculars that you were dedicated to and held accountable to during your time there. And, there's so many different ways that people can be involved. But they really are important to be highlighted in a really clear way on your resume, so we can see, not just what you learned in school, but what else were you doing? How else were you building, whether it was leadership skills or, communication skills, just those other kind of soft skills that are really important, I think, especially for an entry-level position. And the other thing that I would say too is, just we're all being forced to be really flexible right now, and, maybe what we thought was going to be our path, it's going to be different right now, and just being really open to learning new things, or, taking roles that you didn't think was the direction that you wanted to go, but maybe there's a lot of translatable skills for you. And a lot of phone screens I'm doing, especially kind of with that entry level, it's, I just want to hear, where do you think your strengths are? What do you think you want to be doing? Have you thought about this? So just not being afraid to ask questions along the way as well. I absolutely love it when people find jobs. It's not always with Carpe data, and that's okay too. But I feel like every touch point you have with someone at a company, or a recruiter, or an HR manager, is just an opportunity to learn more about the career landscape right now. And so being really open-minded will just help you navigate down whatever path unfolds for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think honing in on those skills is going to be really important. If you are graduating and you have time because you're not going on your 3-week European vacation anymore, go take a class, go take, if you're really into data and you want to learn something new, go take a SQL class, go learn Marketo, go learn Salesforce, go learn any skills that of the career that you're looking for, because the more that you can say you're certified in something and you don't have to get certified through your employment, it's going to be a huge bonus for a lot of companies hiring. So, take this time that you have and to learn a new skill, and brush up on those. I know there's so many resources out there and discounts for different classes right now. Santa Barbara City Colleges has the Career Skills Institute, and they went all virtual. So they're teaching all their classes online. So you can go look at that. There's leadership skills class. There's all sorts of different classes you can learn and take through that. So just being able to go out there and learn from others. I would also say, even if you're graduating college, an internship is not below you. I think the more you can get work experience, the better. A lot of companies are going to be hiring interns, and then those hopefully will convert into full-time positions. All companies want to hire internally and not have to retrain, somebody. So just because you're not in college anymore does not mean that an internship is below you. And I also would say that no job really in this time is below you. Start out in these entry-level positions and prove yourself and work hard, and you become a valuable asset to the company. So, working on those things.
Those are great things. I second all of that. Some other things that I would say specifically as far as your resume goes, a few things I would say, first of all, is to tailor it to the specific job and the specific company. So I've just honestly gotten resumes where the role is a software engineer and they say at the top their objective is a data science role. And I think you just need to be really careful about mass sending out your resume if it doesn't actually apply to the specific role. So be careful about that and really highlight the things that apply to that job. I think that's really important to be able to stand out. And then kind of on that vein, to not include everything. Sometimes, I think it's always good to list all your jobs and all that kind of stuff, but really focus on maybe the most recent roles and your main things that you've been working on. I think that, having more resumes, we don't have a ton of time to dedicate to every resume. And so if I get a resume that's like 14 pages, it's really overwhelming and I'm not able to get the essence of who you are, what you do, where you're, what you work with most. I might see 10 languages and I'm not sure which ones you're actually working with on a day-to-day basis. So if you kind of condense it down a little bit, I think that's really helpful for us. And just as far as the process that I go through in looking at resumes, I'd say it's kind of generally more or less, and it changes per role and how I'm working with the hiring manager. But I'd say more or less like three buckets. There's one bucket of candidates that really just don't meet the qualifications at all, and we're not going to move forward with them. And then kind of two buckets of, here are the top candidates. They, really meet all of our requirements. They really stand out. And those are probably the ones that we're going to move most quickly on, contact, as fast as possible. But we always have some that we're still going to be in touch with. They may just not be like the top priority candidates. So I'd say that's kind of the process we go through, is trying to get out candidates who really are not a fit for the role, and then prioritizing candidates that we think would be the best match.
Sorry, there's just one other thing I wanted to touch on there too. And, that's, it's also just in regards to location. And, sometimes I might see a resume and it looks like, they're based on the other side of the country, but I'm hiring here in Santa Barbara. So just being really clear, if maybe you've recently relocated, make sure your city and where you live is updated. Or, I recently spoke with a candidate who I actually really loved on his resume. He said, I'm relocating to Santa Barbara in June, and so he had that New York address, and I probably wouldn't have looked at that resume in any other given time, but seeing on his resume that he was going to be here in Santa Barbara, gave me the confidence, okay, this is someone that I want to reach out to. So especially with a lot of resumes, sometimes even location ends up being a filter.
Yeah, and I think I just want to add in that sometimes it's, even when your resume meets all the requirements or everything, sometimes it could still be missed because everyone's human. But what's never missed is kind of going on what like Bethany and what we mentioned before is, if you go through any secondary connection or able to get a meeting with a recommendation, that usually that mistakenly gets passed for. So always try to get in contact. We just got a question about, I guess, what are your thoughts on cover letters? Any opinion there? And I love the comments and engagement, feedback, and it's very engaging.
I can answer to that. Yes, we do read cover letters. I'd say that it really honestly depends on the role. Some roles we make it a requirement. A hiring manager, maybe written communication is really important, or that filter first of their interest in the company and how they can explain themselves a little bit more than just the resume is really valuable. Some roles not as much, or maybe the hiring manager just doesn't make it a requirement. So it can depend on the role. Some of our roles, it's mandatory. You have to fill it out. Some it's not. But we always give the option because it is a great way to also share a little bit more of your personality, maybe what we would be able to see in an interview that we can't quite get from the resume. So I encourage it. I'd also say that the more personalized, the better, because when your cover letter is just as not as tailored or personalized, then it's not as much of a value add from the resume. So the more tailored, the more specific you can make it, I'd say the better. So.
For me personally, depending on the role and the position, if the resume doesn't meet the qualities, I'm not going to move on to read your cover letter. So that's where having that resume more tailored and very specific to the job and the company will take you to the next level, and showing some of those, like a project you work on or a skill set that you have that you didn't have room on your resume. So that's, for me, that's personally how I review applicants, is resume first, then cover letter. That's also where your cover letter could say, I'm moving to Santa Barbara in June. My, partner got a job at such and such, and I'm looking for something. And so you're able to provide a little bit more color as to why your address doesn't match. So, that situation, and that's helpful as well.
Bethany, I agree with you, and I also check resumes before the cover letter as well. Where I'm gonna, there's probably usually like a top 3 things that I am looking for on that resume to kind of get moved into that first bucket of candidates, and then from there we'll look at a resume, or I'm sorry, we'll look at a cover letter afterward.
Cool. Thank you. We just got a question from Danielle, and sorry if I don't get this right, but I believe the question is kind of how do you go about communicating with candidates? So sometimes a candidate might just be very interested in your company, and a position might not be posted yet. Do you recommend they just reach out, or if they have very high interest in your company, or why, or kind of what advice, if maybe there isn't an open role and you said that there's going to be open roles, with the candidate outreach?
I think for me personally, I am an HR manager. I have one other person on my team. We have 100 employees, and that we just do so much. And so having candidates send us LinkedIn messages or emails, just what's the status of their application, makes it really difficult for me to find time in my day to respond and engage with them. So as much as I want to, I think I find it very difficult to find the time to. There's only so much I can do in a day, especially right now in this, we're trying to hire, trying to support our employees through a pandemic, and try to do everything else that we were doing before the pandemic. So, I respond. If we are declining you for a position, we send you a note. I think you take time. If you send in an application and then you're, sending something right away, I don't really have time to reach out to you and talk to you. However, if you have a connection through somebody else, through a different one of my colleagues, and it comes through them, I would put you, I would obviously put some time through. So find out through LinkedIn if you have any connections, have that informational interview. I also see a comment about that because those are important as well. I think before I took the job at HG, I reached out to every single person I knew that worked there to be like, tell me about the company. And so that also created an opportunity for more communication. And so when I get referrals through our current employees, it helps. But personally, I don't have time to respond to everybody's candidate email.
Bethany, I think that was really realistic and well said. Thank you. And I will say what she said.
It looks like, though, Danielle's asking about how you feel about candidates reaching out when there's not a job posted. I mean, unless you hear that we're going to be posting something, it's highly unlikely that I will respond to you just because I'm focusing on the actual positions we're hiring for. That's where I say, like, keep looking at our website. That is the best place. That's the source of information.
And I would recommend if there's like a specific job that you have in mind, like a data science role, like say if it's a data science role, then instead of maybe reaching out to HR managers, connect with a lot of like directors or managers of data science in town and just start having informational interviews. So when that role opens, because HR managers, they have to talk to like every candidate. It's overwhelming. So if there's not an open role, it's probably not the best use of their time. But if you reach out directly and make good relations with hiring managers directly, I think that could be a better use of time.
Yeah, I'll share a story. I recently had a phone screen with someone who had applied for a data position, and in talking, he actually was trying to pivot his career and was interested in a totally different type of role than what we even had posted or what was available. And maybe 10 minutes into the conversation said, actually, I'm not even interested in this role. I just wanted to be able to chat with you. And I didn't leave that phone screen feeling great about that candidate, to be really honest. It felt like there could have been other, opportunities for them to learn more about our company and the other aspects of our company under like true and honest pretenses. So that'll just be kind of, I guess, my word of caution or my story of caution that I'll share.
Yeah, gosh, this is a hard question. And I see both sides. I feel a lot with what Bethany and Nicole have said. And yeah, a lot of times it's hard. We've already got lots of candidates to look through. And if you've already applied online, we're like Bethany said, we're going to get back to you one way or another, whether we don't move forward or not. But I also, I don't know. I see both sides. Sometimes I've made great connections and you never know in the future if there's a role that comes up. So it's hard. I would say be patient with us, understand that we do have a lot going on and we sometimes can't get back to everybody. But sometimes I have made connections and later on in the future, a role comes up and they're a good fit for it. So it's kind of hard. I would say just trust that the best thing to do is apply for a role that is a good fit for you. That's the hands down best thing to do. But I also understand, a lot of times if it's a role, that I'm not actively working on, maybe they've applied for another role. It's not a role that I'm not actively working on. I'll let them know that, we're looking at your application. We'll be in touch once they've reviewed it. And sometimes we can't share more than that. I'd say be understanding of that also if you're the candidate on that side. But I just say be very selective. I guess would be my point. If you really feel like you need to be at that company, you're a really great fit for some role that you saw in the past or that's currently posted, maybe, but with caution. Don't do it all the time. Don't, spam all the recruiters that because sometimes it can get hard when there's a ton of candidates that we're connecting with. So I see both sides. It's a tough balance to find.
Cool. So my next question is, so given there's a kind of a lot of uncertainty into the future, and I know every company's probably a case-by-case basis, but as a job seeker, I might be curious as, man, when does that uncertainty kind of go away? When are there going to be more open roles listed and kind of have a better, kind of what do you, any of you have any idea of that timeline on maybe when more open roles would be listed that maybe are on pause because of kind of the uncertainty around COVID-19? And so to help the job seeker, okay, that's good for my timing. It's a hard question because it's very uncertain times, so.
Yeah, and I can, for us, the roles that we have open right now are the roles that we're making a priority for right now. So at least for Carpe data, what you see is what's available on our end. And same thing too, there was a role where we did put the hiring on pause, and again, I do reach out. In that case, I did let candidates know, hey, we're putting this on pause. this will probably open up again, probably in June or July. Take a look on our website, but also if you want to reach out to me at that time, like that's okay. And we haven't crossed that bridge yet.
So for us, I mean, at least to start off, we have kept most of our roles open. So although there's maybe some that are, in flux or, may come available later on, the majority of our roles are posted. And the short answer is I believe we will likely have maybe a few more roles come open, but I don't know the specific timing of that. I think it all depends, and a lot more is in the hands of our senior leadership than myself.
Yeah.
So I think some of the headcount, maybe depends on definitely depends on how things go, if we sign different contracts, things like that. So I really don't know the timing, but I'd say most of our roles we've kept open and are up on our job board. So.
Yeah, I mean, things are so uncertain. We could have, all of a sudden a really amazing quarter and we need to add 10 more customer success people. We don't know. I would say follow the companies that you're really interested in, like their LinkedIn. Like I know you can hit follow, and that's how we announce a lot of our jobs. As soon as a new job is open, we post it on our LinkedIn or Twitter account. So follow the companies and then refresh and keep, going back. I did the same thing as Nicole. We had to put a job on pause, and we reached out to the candidate and said, we really like you, but we're putting this on pause. We may reach out, in the future. And then 2 weeks, we reached out and said, we're reopening it. How do you want to have a final interview? And so that's, it's so uncertain, and things change like weekly for us. And so, you're just going to have to give us patience. I think a lot of this is the patience, flexibility, and just know that we are looking and we care just as much as you do about finding you the right job. So.
This was brought up a little bit earlier, but we didn't go into it more in depth. How have you felt the value of interviewing has changed, going from like meeting somebody in person in an on-site interview to having to do all the interviews virtually within the new climate?
Yeah, we're like, so I actually really like it. And the reason I do like it is we did everything virtual until the on-site. So phone screens, video, none of that has changed until essentially the on-site. And what has changed is, we're not flying people. We're not doing the whole office tour. We're not doing all that. But we're getting to know people a different way. And there's a lot of interview bias that comes when you meet somebody in person. It's normal. It's a normal type of human feeling. When you see someone, there could be some bias. That has gone away. I feel that a lot of that has gone away because you're not interacting with them in person. I mean, you do miss a lot of the in-person stuff, but you kind of have this other opportunity to get to know them differently. We've had 4 people start in the last few weeks that we've never met in person. And that's, exciting for us to be like, I can't wait to see you and give you a elbow bump, I guess, because we're not doing handshakes anymore. But it's just a whole other thing, and then how you get through that challenge together. And there's a lot more touch points, I would say, with candidates. I feel, I'm able to talk to them more. And we broke up our on-site interview typically was a whole day. And that's exhausting for anybody. It's exhausting for me. It's exhausting for the hiring manager and the candidate. And so we're now doing them over 2 days. So we usually have a 2-day. And so they are able to debrief from their first interview and reevaluate and have much better engagement and questions, having been refreshed and sleeping on it. And, the other day we had a 2-day interview, and the hiring manager finished. He said, that was the best interview I've ever had. And so to say that somebody, because they were able to really take in everything that each employee said and really understand it, I think it's giving them more of an opportunity to meet more people, to engage. The challenge is that we found is not showing them our office and having that tour and stuff. So I created a video tour. I think it was like the last day we were all scrambling to move out, and I took my phone and I just walked through our office and pretended I was with a candidate. And that has been a huge bonus for candidates to really be like, okay, because I'm like, this is where sales sits. This is where engineering sits. This is our kitchen. And so they're able to see themselves in that space. And then we, give them more information about Santa Barbara, especially if they're not from here. It's just, we have a whole 6-page packet that we have created to share with them to give them a little bit more information. So it's good, it's bad. I like it. I don't know. It's really going to be interesting how this changes for the future for on-sites.
I love that you guys have a video. We also have one that we share. And I mean, yeah, it's different, and I never thought that I would, kind of have to walk down this path. And now here we are. And, to huge testament to the teams too, who the hiring teams who just were really quickly kind of able to adapt to it. And, but it is different. And, I'm also very much I just love meeting people in general, especially in person. And so, just, it doesn't feel as natural for me, but I'm definitely, I think, acclimating a little bit more to everything being done virtual, like everything in my life is at this time. But, for us, we really had to adapt because we have this really aggressive 2020 goals for 2020, and we realized we can't just wait. So let's adapt and be flexible. And, for us too, when our teams are hiring, I think it does become very important how you're presenting yourself virtually, and because that's how our teams are going to be interacting with you. We want to, we want to make sure that there's good communication and, collaboration that's happening in the interview process that will carry over to, how we're operating as a company and actually working. And I've also definitely started, I think I'm I don't want to say over providing about the company, but I think giving even more information than I already was, because I just want to, for me, it's important to see that we have each other's backs and we're helping each other be successful. And, if you're moving along this far in the interview process, I want you to have everything that you need to be successful. And if that means we're going to jump on the phone 3 times before your virtual interview, great, give me a call. I will make time for that call. And I want to be there and be that support for you. And same thing kind of after that interview. I'm spending a lot more time really debriefing and just really, making sure that everything was understood about who we are and, that there was nothing kind of missed that you might pick up on if you're in person, but you don't really have an opportunity to pick up on, on site. And so, yeah, just, for me, I'm definitely spending more time with candidates, kind of both before, during, and after to really make sure that, that it's going to be a good fit.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And I guess I need to do an office video. I haven't done one yet. We had a candidate who's already started. He's now an employee with us, but he's going to be relocating here to Santa Barbara when he's able. And yeah, I sent some office photos, but I guess the video is I need to get going on that. But yeah, I'd say overall, I feel like we're really able to maintain the value and the just how it was before. But kind of I think there's some changes for all of us, obviously, but I think we've been able to maintain the value. And I think that, time will really tell, if there's any change in, are we evaluating candidates differently? Has anything really changed with moving to virtual interviews? But yeah, I think everything prior to the on-site interview was already done over video or done over phone. So that's really the main thing that's changed. I think personally, one of the things that I miss the most is for most of our on-site interviews, we would have the candidate go out to lunch with the team. And I think that was a really valuable time of just, aside from the stressful part of the interview, to get a little time just to, talk and hang out and be a little more relaxed. And so I'm bummed that that's not part of our process right now, but again, we're all having to adapt. And yeah, definitely spending a lot more time with candidates, want to be able to answer any questions that they feel like maybe weren't able to be assessed, or just whatever remaining questions, since there's less of that face-to-face. And I think that really comes in on our side to be able to provide that information, but also on the candidate side to really know what you need, know what's important. If you have questions about the culture or questions about what it's like in the office, or things that you feel like you weren't able to assess, that you really ask that and take the time to get to know that. Because I think that's really important, that you're getting all the information that you feel like you need to make a decision. So definitely being flexible.
So the next question I have is we've been talking about kind of interviewing and hiring for the last hour, but kind of a little bit different, a little more on the culture side of things, and interacting with the existing employees and workforce. Given that you're not able to do any in-person, maybe happy hours or team lunches, how has your company tried to adapt and maintain a strong working culture throughout everyone working in such separate locations?
I can go first. So thankfully for us, we were already used to somewhat of a version of this, obviously very different with all of us being at home. But we already had 3 offices. We had about 30% remote. So we were already relying really heavily on things like Slack and video conferencing. So most of us were really already used to that, which is really helpful. But obviously there's, a big difference to the situation we're in now. So, a few things that, we're relying on. We have our every other week all hands meeting, which is just a wonderful way for everybody to get together, get updates on the company, hear from different people and different things that are going on, as well as, regular team meetings. One thing new that we've implemented is we have a every other week senior leadership lunch, where I think 5 to 10 individuals get to meet with one person on our senior leadership team over a lunch and just get to ask questions and connect. So I think that's been really fruitful and seeing the value of that. Some other things just personally that I've been doing, or that's I really enjoyed, is we had just kind of an informal group of the ladies from our office here in Santa Barbara. We would go out for a once a month lunch just to connect all of us, and we just did a video version of that last week, which was really nice. And then I think being more intentional on Slack or things like that with people that I may not work on a regular basis with, but that I would see in our break room, or, just get to catch up on their life and how they're doing. So a little bit more intentionality there on Slack. But I think amazingly, it's been great to see how we are able to adapt to this and function and maintain our culture even when we're all apart. So.
Yeah, there's definitely the word resilience is coming up to me as well, that adaptability and that flexibility. But do I miss our team lunches? Oh my gosh, I miss them so much. That is absolutely true. And the kind of virtual version that we're doing, I participate and encourage people to participate, and but I'll still say that I miss our team lunches. And one thing that we did too. We really shifted some of the things that we are shifting virtually. We kind of keep one kind of company calendar that's updated now. So for example, maybe even the group of ladies, or the group that would meet for knitting, now they do it virtually, but they also broadcast it more widely kind of on this company calendar. So even like smaller people who have shared their interests, just really giving it more visibility to the whole company, so people can find new hobbies, or just find different ways to kind of engage with each other. We too benefited that we had a remote, or that we have an office in Lisbon, so a lot of our teams were used to working remotely. We're doing it on a different scale now, and I think that definitely helped the team acclimate sooner than later. One thing that I think our teams have been doing a really good job of, as far as what kind of communication should I be using? Is this a Slack? Is this an email? Should I jump on a Zoom call? It's we kind of have, managers are really stressing, if it starts to get a lot of back and forth in Slack, like, we need to jump on a Zoom call. I know some of our teams, they'll allow for discussion in Slack, but if any decisions are being made, then it has to be made with everyone on a Zoom call, just to make sure that there's no cross wires, that the intentions are understood, and it's really clear if there's any new expectations that are coming on as well. Since we're onboarding so many people right now, it's really tasked the whole team to be more available on Zoom, just so we can really make sure that all of our new hires feel really like they know that they can reach out to people when they need it. And that's a total team effort. That's not just the hiring manager. Everyone kind of needs to rally, and has rallied together for that. And I always encourage managers who are bringing someone onto the team, don't be the only one who's answering questions for your new hire. Direct them to other people, gives them an opportunity, gives someone else an opportunity to help. And it also will just, increase the likelihood that this new hire will reach back out to that person for something else. So, kind of leading, even if you know the answer, don't give it in this, see who else you can let answer that question or offer that guidance. And it will, help the new hires feel more involved, and like they know who their resources are to reach out to.
Yeah, we're doing all very similar things. I like that idea, Caitlin, of the every other week senior leadership lunch. So wrote that down. We do a town hall every month, and then our CEO sends out a daily email. So she sends out an email just about every day about something, whether it's what's going on, a book recommendation. We have a Slack group, our work from home zone Slack channel, that she will post things in, like, what is everybody, interested in for this time? Or so there's been a lot of, like, we shared childhood pictures one time, like somebody started, they shared a picture, and so everyone kept sharing more and more pictures, and I think that was really fun. And with the nice thing about it, it's not all up to HR right now, which has been really relieving. We've had a group of people who are the party planning committee, and so they're planning a happy hour, when, oh, we need this, let's plan that. We had a virtual talent show, which was really fun. We had comedy, we had poems, we had a band, we had all sorts of different things. And that was really fun. And it was encouraged by everybody else. And it's not like an initiative that HR is starting. It's an initiative that our employees are really craving, that connection right now. And so that's been really fun to see. We have a cooking channel that we share, like, recipes and what we're cooking. There's a workout group. And so there's just other ways people are connecting. And so that has been really nice. I think as an HR person, I miss people so much. And I miss just walking around the office and talking to people. There's a couple people that I haven't even talked to or seen. And it's hard because I would normally just stop and talk to them. So I think that was the number one thing everybody on the survey has said that they miss, is the people. And that really goes to show what kind of culture that we do have, that we all want to see each other. And so I'm always looking for more ideas. I'm constantly researching and writing things down, but it's difficult, but I think we're all just doing the best that we can under these circumstances. And so the more video, the more virtual, the more engagement that we can do throughout different Slack groups is going to be important.
Cool.
Yeah, Slack has, really kind of become the water cooler talk, let's call it, where you can just get those little bits of engagement, whether it's in a cooking channel, a sports channel. We did a Carpe throwback channel where we just had our 10-year anniversary, so everyone was posting pictures of where they were 10 years ago. And I don't know that we would have done that, if we weren't kind of at home and in this pandemic. And Bethany, I also have, what you were saying about, this doesn't just have to be driven from HR, and I think that's so important. And, to get that employees are buying in, that managers are buying into it. It really is the people of why people, I'm gonna say people 10 times in a sentence, but, it's the people that keep us working at Carpe Data. And that's really been highlighted during this time, and just how much we're trying to care for each other, and also be respectful that everyone's experiencing this in a different way, and if someone isn't showing up to something that's happening virtually, there's understanding there too, that we're all experiencing this in our own way. I'll speak for myself, I have my good days, I have my bad days, and if I'm going through that, I understand that my teams and the rest of the team is going through it in a similar way.
Cool. For anyone that has joined late, we are coming about maybe about 10 minutes left in the session. So if you do have questions, please ask them in the question section or the comments section. But that being said, we're gonna keep going forward. Back to the interviewing side of things. Are there, when people are doing these final virtual on-site interviews, have you seen anything like that certain candidates that have done that are very stand out to you versus other? So kind of like tips for doing that all the way to the end of the virtual on-sites.
I'll go first. Everybody should wear pants. I think that's important. Just kind of keeping it like making sure you're still dressed for an interview, but in all seriousness, that is so important. I think dressing as if you were gonna go to the office and wear, whatever you were gonna wear, I think is still important. Just because you're at home in front of your video camera, it does not say oh, I'm just gonna wear a t-shirt and shorts and sandals, because sometimes you get up and take a break. And so you want to make sure that if the camera is still on, that you look like you're interviewing. We haven't had that, thankfully, yet, but it's just a tip that I want to give out there. But that also goes when you do take a break, take breaks. And when you do take a break, turn your camera off and your mic off, because we've had a couple people and you hear their background noise. And what if you say something that you don't want, somebody to hear? So, if you take a bathroom break or a water break, just turn your camera off and just, tell the interviewer, I just need a quick break, which is totally fine. I ask all my employees to ask that at the top of their interview. Do you need a break? Because video fatigue is real. So sitting down and not moving and, holding your body up a certain way, it gets tiring. So being able to have that flexibility. And then I also meet with every candidate 5 minutes before their interview and test their video and audio quality. You want to make sure that you're in good lighting, that they can hear you. It's, if you're not sure, test it with a friend before you test it with me, just to make sure. Most people are working and doing things, but in an interview, you always want to show your best side and your best everything. So, we've had a candidate with their video continually going in and out, and it was so distracting, and they kept saying things and it got him off track. So just make sure you test all those things. And then, just prepare as if you were in person. Always prepare, have your questions written down, ready to go. You don't want to look like you're not prepared for it.
I just wanted to piggyback on a lot of what you said. That was really great advice that I don't need to repeat, but that was great. And just kind of piggybacking off of the prepared, Right now, there's a lot of people not working who are looking for jobs. And, for me, or for our teams, it's still really important. We want to know, are you looking for any job, or is this the job for you? And the amount of preparation you do, I think really speaks to that. Is this just one of 4 interviews that you're going to go to today and, see where it lands? Or are you taking the time to learn about us in the same way that we're taking time to learn about you? And so just really want to emphasize the prepared, because whether it's virtual or in person, it's noticeable. And, the people who have prepared the most, they really do stand out to our teams.
Yeah, I'm probably going to echo a lot of what you guys already said. But yeah, I was thinking about it in the fact that you, just as much as you would prepare for an on-site interview, you should prepare for an, at-home virtual interview. So that means that you would have, mapped out where you're going to go and, dressed a certain way. Think of it at that same level. Obviously, it's going to look different, but do as much preparation. And that doesn't mean you have to wear a suit, but maybe ask your point of contact there, what is the normal dress in that office. So definitely prepare. I agree. I'd also say be flexible, just as much as there's potential background noise in your place and you want to mitigate that as much as possible. The interviewers themselves may have be dealing with those same issues. And that was one note that I heard from somebody else, but it was a really cool way to think about it, especially if you're a job seeker right now, is that prior, when people would come into offices for on-site interviews, it was really an interviewee coming into the employer's space, and you're one when there's how many employees, so it was really you having to go into their space. Well, now this is kind of leveling the playing field a little bit, where you're both in your own home turf. So I think that's a cool way to look at it, that we're all just learning what it's like to be at our homes and invite people into that with our interviews. So I think that was a cool way to think of it. And same with Bethany. I don't do them with every single candidate of testing their audio and stuff, but if you have any doubts about it, if you have any questions, I've done it with a handful of candidates. I'm more than happy to, jump on the video conference ahead of time, make sure your audio and video and all of that's working, so that you don't have to deal with that in the first, 5 or so minutes of your actual interview. We want you to take advantage of that time. So definitely, prepare and make sure all those things are set in place beforehand.
Cool. So we are running close to ending time, but I do want to I'm going to try to kind of combine Robin's final question with kind of a final question of my own. So Robin's question is, do you feel, right there in the comments, do each of you feel the current process of recruitment will evolve because of the volume and the pandemic has created? And then kind of going into that, how recruiting is going moving forward. Do you have any final comments about just kind of everyone looking for a job right now, and or just kind of about the climate? So any general final comments, and then to kind of wrap up here. I can start.
Oh, you could go.
I don't know that I have any, I don't know what the right word is there. Do I think recruiting will evolve? Absolutely. And do I know exactly what that path will look like? No. But I'm facing new challenges as a recruiter right now that I wasn't facing, 2 months ago. And that's why I so much appreciate, getting to talk to Caitlin and Bethany. Thank you. This has been really great. I've also written lots of things down in my notebook, because, none of us, I haven't walked through this before. Not many people have walked through an international pandemic, and it requires a lot of flexibility. And to me, flexibility is it always just really seems to be kind of the key thing, that teams are talking about, that I'm talking about, and encouraging for candidates. We're all being asked to be so flexible in so many different areas. And, I totally understand finding a job is not easy, regardless of, what situation is going on. And, I want to be flexible with candidates. I want to make it work for people in the same way that I'm going to ask for that flexibility. Someone on my team is, one of the people who had the sound issues, in an interview. It wasn't even the candidate, and it's that kind of flexibility that, we'll get through this all together. So I realize it's difficult, stay flexible and then just keep communicating. If you have that point of contact at a company, like if something comes up, we want to be flexible with you as well. I want you to be able to put your best foot forward when interviewing with teams and kind of moving along in the interview stage. So I can't read your mind. So, I can only help as much as you're going to kind of let me know what's going on in your world. So I can, whether it's changing the scheduling or the day, or, maybe you operate better in the mornings, like, all right, let's get that interview, on that earlier time slot. So just really, be flexible, stay open in your communication. And, that's what I'm going to do for you as a recruiter as well.
Yeah, so I remember at the very beginning of this all, when my boss we were talking through contingency plans and how this is all going to look. And she said, well, hey, maybe we should, maybe we'll move to virtual, recruiting in general. Maybe there's things that we can learn from it that are going to be better than how we did it before. And my initial reaction was, no way. Like, I love having these, lunches. I love the way it works now. But I think a situation like this really forces us to rethink things, relook at things, see how we can do them better. So I definitely think it's going to be changing and evolving and hopefully getting better as time goes on. I know you mentioned down there, I saw in the comment, so many job boards, ATS systems. I don't know if our options are going to get any less. I feel like as we just grow, like I feel like options get more and more, but maybe better integrations, better way to do things. So I definitely see overall that we're all gonna learn a lot from this and hopefully improve and come out better at the end. But yeah, it's definitely a learning process as we go through it.
Yeah, I agree with both. I think flexibility, patience, understanding, all those things, are going to be so important as everyone's looking for a job. I mean, the one story that I could give you is when I had moved to Santa Barbara 5 years ago looking for a job, and it was hard. And so I understand what everybody's going through as they look through for jobs. And I kept applying for jobs and I kept getting rejected. And that was really difficult. And it's hard on, I know someone else said that, like, you go through the whole process and then you get rejected. And that's mentally draining and exhausting. And I know what that feels like. So I try really hard to be overly communicative because I understand the person's side and where they're at. And then I would suggest that you may have to take a job that you feel you're overqualified for, and that is okay. And it doesn't mean that whatever, schooling or whatever you went through, it doesn't mean it just means that right now in this situation, there's not a lot of jobs, and it's going to get worse because not all the companies have laid off all their employees yet. So I think that's one thing I wanted to kind of put out there is if you recently have been laid off and you're taking a break, which you should, and that's important to take care of your mental health, but it doesn't mean that there's going to be more jobs available next month. It means that there's going to be less. So you may need to start your job search earlier than you want, and because it may take longer. So that's just like one little advice I can give to anybody. And just, take every job as an opportunity to learn and grow and develop, because you don't know who you're going to interact with, what kind of mentor you're going to have, or if you're going to end up wanting to completely shift and do something different, because this is an interesting time that we're all going through. So just give yourself some patience. Don't be so hard on yourself. Rejection is hard, and you need to take care of your mental health. I think that's a big message right now in this environment is you need to be taking care of your mental health is really important right now.
And I can say one last thing. I saw that comment as well from Cameron. And yeah, I know that it can be really difficult when you go through a full process and, don't end up getting the job. I know that as, being an individual applying for jobs. And I know that it can seem companies can seem maybe not superhuman, but I think really seeing the humanity in recruiters, in the companies, in the interviewers, just as much. Obviously, we know as a candidate, you're investing a lot of time in us. We're also investing a lot of time in you as an employer, and we really want to find the best match. So just as much as it's hard when we don't move forward with a candidate, just as much as it's hard for that candidate, I'm sure it's also hard for us. We really want to find that best match. So I think, one of our values at Evidation is both assuming and stating your good intent. And so I think that's something we all, myself included, can do a little bit better is, assuming that these companies have good intent, assuming that I as an individual have a good intent when I'm applying for a job, and also be able to share that. It's good for companies to be able to share that our intent really is to find the best match. And it's hard for us when we don't, but we really want to find the best match. So yeah, just seeing the humanity in all of us. We're all struggling with this.
Cool. Thank you again, Bethany, Nicole, Caitlin, for volunteering your time to provide all this great feedback and insights to many different people in the community coming in. Yeah, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. That being said, we have many other great sessions today, targeting a much different audience group as well. Next up, we'll probably take a brief, it looks like maybe 5-minute break as the next session will begin at 2 p.m. And that will be Mika, the founder of Good Space Co-working, will be talking with Andrew Ochsner from Boone Graphics, Sam Walters from Zotos Bowling, and Ryan Newell from CITIG about sort of steps for small businesses to recover, kind of what steps that they have been taking, kind of discussing their current challenges and kind of their plans and next steps to recover as we start to reopen. So that should be very insightful for many small businesses in town. And we will not have a 5-minute break, so looks like we're just gonna go right into it. They're gonna be beginning the session shortly and pulling you all into there. So thank you.
Thanks again, Navjot.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Session.